Okay, Anya community, we need to talk about something. And I'm going to put a full disclaimer that if you're doing this, I'm probably going to offend you. And I don't apologize because there is a major issue that I am seeing across the board, whether it's somebody brand new to business or that's several years in. And it has to do with your messaging and your value proposition. So if you have never written a value proposition, or if it's been a few months since you've revisited it, or you haven't really even thought through the nuances to add multidimensional layers to really refine your value proposition, this is for you. So on your mark, get set, listen. If you are using 6 to 7 figures as a part of your value proposition, I am telling you, stop, stop, stop. The reason being, it is no longer enough if you are building your audience and unless you're, the caveat to this is if you are very, very established and you've built your whole brand and you were one of the first people using Skill to 6 figures or 7 figures and you've got a huge audience, good for you. But chances are, if you're in our community and you're listening and you are struggling to figure out what sets you apart as a company, if you are having difficulty describing your ideal client avatar and you are using 6 figures or hit 6 figures or get leads or become a 7 figure entrepreneur, it is not enough. It's no longer enough. And here's why. Who doesn't? Who doesn't want to hit 6 figures? Who doesn't want to hit 7 figures? Who doesn't want to hit 8 figures? This question should not be the defining mark in your copy. Sure, it can be used as a qualifier on an intake form and in that context, and it can be used throughout, sprinkled. But if the only thing that makes you special as a service provider or as a coach is using 6 or 7 figures as a differentiator, that's not enough. Okay, there are so many other people using this. And so when we talk about value prop, well, first off, to give you a few reasons, number one, it's not enough because it's vague. Again, who doesn't want to hit that number? Number two, if you're writing ad copy now in 2021, guess what? Everything is getting flagged. You know that Facebook and YouTube ads are going to be more expensive. And if you haven't heard, the cost of paid advertising online as a whole is up 200%. 200%. And I didn't give a deadline in the last year. Okay. 200%. Guess what that needs to tell you? That if you don't have laser targeted messaging and it's not very, very apparent who you help and how you help them, and the most clarity you can provide is helping people hit multi 6 figures, we've got to hone into your secret sauce. And that comes down to your value proposition. Because, sure, that might be an outcome of what your coaching or what your services provide, but it is not the value. And guess what? If you're saying get your life back or get your freedom, here to tell you in tough love, I'm not sugarcoating this. And I quite frankly maybe hope that this message wakes you up because you need to stand out in a way that's going to either very quickly attract or repel. We have a client that I adore. And one of the things that she's begun doing in her messaging that is so powerful is really going after her zone of genius, which is franchisees and being able to help them grow sustainable franchises without burning down and basically working multiple locations and scaling, giving up their nights and weekends and their next family birthday party to be able to do it, right? This is a brilliant value proposition because, yes, she does help them get to the $1 million mark. Absolutely. That's a part of what she does. But it's so clear in her messaging that she's going after franchisees and she's providing them a specific result, like being the top franchisee in their area, because she is helping them not only manage multiple locations, but get really, really clear on how she does that. So that's an example of fantastic messaging because it's so zeroed in. Whereas the coach that just helps somebody get to multi 6 figures, well, what industry? And even more so, if we're just saying what industry, I mean, what tools, what is so special about that? I know for us here at Anya, we've been really spending so much time. We've been spending days, if not weeks, laser focusing on our messaging as we head into 2022 because we believe it's critical in our value proposition. For instance, one faux pas that we used to have and that we're adjusting, and that I'm being the police of messaging as I have encouraged all of our team to do so, we used to use the term course creator. We help course creators scale with and get leads with Facebook ads. Well, guess what? That's no longer enough for us. We are refining that even deeper to be focused and laser toned in on the results and the transformation that we provide. No longer do we help course creators alone. We help industry experts and leaders who happen to use a course as a vehicle really refine and be matched with more and more of the right people to attract raving fans that want to learn from them. Very big difference between that message and helping course creators get leads. One is focused on a very specific visionary person that aligns with who we're going after. The other is very vague. And guess what? In 2022, it's not going to work. Set a goal on an outcome that may or may not be manageable. One of the biggest mistakes that I've made in messaging and that I see a lot of entrepreneurs make is promising a result that they may or may not be able to deliver. Because you know what I know to be true? In 2021 and 2022, it is very, very challenging with how volatile the advertising auction is to promise a lead as a result. We know this because a lot of things are changing constantly. And so we can provide transformation. We can provide a tangible and a clear roadmap to try to hit certain benchmarks. But do you know what I cannot promise anyone? A lead. I can't promise them a cost lead. I can try and create tactics to help them get to their target as close as possible. And for that, we are an innovative agency. But using the promise of leads it's an expectation that's just simply unreasonable and quite frankly may attract a scarcity type of a client. And so when it comes to your messaging, when it comes to your value proposition, if you are using 6 to 7 figures in your messaging, guess what? You're likely going to maybe, dare I say, attract people with a scarcity mindset. Because if you set that expectation as the only value that you provide, and you're saying you don't maybe like the clients you work with, guess what? They are only hiring you to get to 6 or 7 figures. And what does that tell you? Probably tells you there's some money issues. And so what you want to focus on, what I want to focus on, right? We're working on this internally too, as I say this, is the actual outcome. What is the transformation? It goes back to this basic idea of an ideal client avatar. And here's what it's important to think about. What results are you actually providing? You need to go deeper than the features of leads that come through. And what is the benefit? What is the emotional release that your client experiences? What do you do differently? And when you use this language, how can you specifically target that person that you want to attract? For us, one example to give you a nuance, and as someone that's a visionary and not as detail oriented, this is a stretch for me. But for instance, when I started the company as a full service agency, we used to use small business owner as a lot of our targeting and messaging. I want to ban small business owner from our vocabulary. Here's why. Small business owner and someone that self-identifies as a small business owner tends to play small. With us and what we do, we scale ads. We don't play small. We pay big. Our clients play big and they make big investments as a result. One of our clients, the average client budget that we work with now is usually over 10 grand a month. Small business owner and someone putting themselves in that box probably doesn't want to pay big. And some of our budgets are way bigger than that, right? They probably are scared. They're probably nervous to spend that. And so the point that I'm making and the point that I want to clarify is that it's really, really important that we identify and look at the terms of the people that we want to work with, not terms that maybe people we don't want to attract and we actually want to repel. And so here's why, again, it's just so important, because at the end of the day, chances are, if you're wanting to grow your business, the level of client that you're serving is going to increase. It's a lot easier to up level and attract people with more of an abundance mindset than it is to attract more and more of the wrong person. So what makes a good message? All of that said, my rant aside on why it's important to omit using language like this, what actually makes a good message? Transformation, value. I know it sounds obvious. I know that you've probably filled out an ideal client avatar, customer, whatever, ICA, whatever label that you want to put parameters around the persona that you're going after. You probably filled out one of these sheets. But my encouragement to you, what makes a good message? What makes a good message and what makes a good value proposition is when you really actually hone in and you do it intentionally. When you actually interview your clients and you get very specific on what their pain points are. For instance, we are rolling out a brand new service that I'm very, very excited about. And when I was sharing this with our clients and creating it around their needs and what they were asking for, when I explained it back, they're like, that's not what I need. You know why? It was in my language and not theirs. And so what makes a good message, it's when you actually use the language and you get out of your bubble and you get out of this whole area where you're using jargon and step into the client's shoes and really, really pull messaging from them directly to get very clear on what it is they want. It's not about what you want. It's about what they want. And so components of a good message are, number one, they're focused around what the client wants and needs and how they communicate those things. Number two, they're focused on an actual transformation that goes beyond a result that is going to be very difficult to promise. It's very difficult to promise somebody that they're going to make 7 figures with working with you, right? Because not everyone is going to. Very difficult to promise lead cost to anyone and everyone you work with, because guess what? Things are changing and they may or may not get it. What is timeless that you can provide is maybe an area of strategic growth or vision or a path forward. And those transformations that are helping really hone into what, keeps your client awake at night are critical to use in your messaging. So here's my encouragement to you. Stop making your message revolve around 6 and 7 figures. Dare I say, stop using it in your copy altogether. Maybe in some of the features so that people align. Sure, you can add it in there. But really be mindful of how you use this in your messaging. All right, rant over. I hope that was helpful. I'm not sorry if I offended you, because I really, really, really strongly believe that you can help so many more people and have the impact that you were created to have if you really hone in on this one simple idea, and that is your messaging. All right. That's a wrap for today. On your mark, get set, let's go.